Hello Grand Archive players, let's answer a rules question. What's special about cards like Entrancing Filigree and Uther, Illustrious King? Ignoring Uther's Intercept and Vigor, these cards have a pair of very similar triggered abilities. Uther's On-Enter is a reflexive trigger that's composed of two triggers, but is otherwise functionally almost exactly the same as Enchanting Filigree's. Enchanting Filigree is slightly simpler, so we'll focus on that one and put Uther aside for now. Typically, abilities are independent of each other, even abilities on the same card. However, you may notice something unusual about this second on-leave ability. Unlike a typical ability, this on-leave trigger references some specific information about another ability, namely that on-enter effect. Unfortunately, there is not yet an official name for this type of ability. Many people refer to them as linked abilities, but we already have something that sounds pretty similar. So I'll call these referential abilities for the time being. This on-leave ability returns specifically the card that was banished by the on-enter ability. Other cards with similar pairs of abilities are Quicksilver Grail, Dusklight Communion, Nia Mistveiled Scout, Channel Manifold Desire, and Spirel Schwartz Queen. A few cards like Coronal Rejuvenation and Clockwork Music Box look like they have pairs for related abilities, but they actually don't. Quick detour here. Although Coronal and Music Box do have an ability that banishes cards, and another ability that lets you play them, they have a key difference from the previously mentioned cards. On these two cards, that latter ability doesn't apply only to cards that were affected by the former ability. That is, the ability to play a banished card doesn't refer exclusively to cards banished by one of the other abilities. In fact, you can use these cards to play any card banished by them for any reason, notably including cards banished to pay their memory cost. Anyway, it's important to know that when abilities are related in this manner, they refer to the specific instance of their counterpart ability. If you played Entrancing Filigree and it banished an object, the on-leave ability refers only to the object that was banished by that specific on-enter trigger. If you somehow played a second Entrancing Filigree, each would have its own pair of abilities that referred only to the card that each one banished. If it helps, you can think of the game as assigning unique IDs to each card or object, and each Filigree has its own ID associated with a different banished card. The same goes with copying objects. Any copy is considered to be its own independent instance of an object with separate abilities unrelated to the original. And even if the same Filigree left the field and entered the field again, it would be considered an independent instance of Enchanting Filigree with a new unique game ID, even if it's physically the same piece of cardboard as it was before. Now, let's say you have an Enchanting Filigree that enters the field and its on-enter trigger goes onto the stack. What if you responded to this trigger by removing it from the field? Let's use Zephyr as an example. When Zephyr resolves, Filigree leaves the field, which causes its on-leave to trigger. However, notice that there is no card referenced by this ability. The on-enter hasn't resolved and banished anything yet. So this on-leave will do nothing as it resolves off the stack. Now we resolve the original on-enter trigger and banish an object. However, note that there is no longer any ability referencing this banished object that could return it to the field. The Filigree that used to have that related ability has changed zones, and the game now considers it to be a different entity with no reference to the Filigree that was previously on the field. There is and will not be any object with the ability that would return this banished card to the field. This means that effectively, that object is banished indefinitely. How's that for a unique interaction? On top of that, the Filigree will return to the field from being suppressed at the end phase. Although it might be tough to have a second Zephyr ready to pull off this trick twice in a row. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.